Travel along, Catholic pilgrims, as we read letters from the voyages of St. Frances Cabrini as she traveled around the Western Hemisphere sharing the good news of Christ. Hello, Catholic pilgrims. There is so much going on today in our readings, and they are longer, so I don't want to take up too much time up front. Though we have a longer reading today, you are going to get a detailed snapshot into life in Nicaragua for Italian missionaries in 1891. It really is like going back in time and being in a time machine, and I find it fascinating. Here we are, over 100 years later, reading about her time on November 3rd, 1891. Could she have imagined such a thing? Since this is the end of a voyage, I'll give my reflections after the reading, so let's go ahead and turn to page 76. Today, which is the feast of St. Raphael, is the last day of our voyage. Just as this angel conducted Tobias to the land of fortune, so he conducts us to these countries where we will accumulate treasures for heaven by working hard for these abandoned souls. Even here on board, ladies and gentlemen approach us and tell us how necessary it is to have missionaries in these parts who will work with true zeal for the good of the people. Oh my God, bless our intentions and give us zeal for the salvation of our neighbors' souls, and communicate to us that energy which knows no measure and overcomes all difficulties, confiding in the Sacred Heart of Jesus. Yesterday afternoon, we saw what seemed like a small canal with waters of different colors flowing like so many streams in the midst of the salty sea. We asked the captain the cause of this phenomenon, and he told us it was due to a phosphorus element, and that at night we should be able to see the phosphorescence, which is quite common on the Pacific Ocean. Here we are at the equinox, 12 hours full night. It is interesting to see the succession of both day and night. At 6 p.m. we are in full daylight, and at 6:30 the sun not only disappears, but we have perfect night. It is the same in the morning. At 5:30 a.m., we are still in darkness, and at 6 a.m., the sun is high in the heavens. There is a difference of 6 hours between the time in Italy and Granada, so whilst we hear Mass, you are making the particular examination of conscience, and when we are going to bed, you are about to get up, and thus we are always praising God, which I ever greatly desire. Whilst I am writing, we have arrived at the end of our voyage. This morning, the 25th, the steamer entered one of the most beautiful gulfs I have ever seen, the Gulf of Nicaragua off the coast of Corinto. It anchored at 7 a.m., about 80 meters from the shore, and soon, amidst the strains of a very fine band, we saw two boats adorned with flags and steered by soldiers rowing towards the steamer. Everyone was asking what it meant, and we were amongst the inquirers. When the boat reached the steamer, a priest and an old gentleman came on board. Then other priests and gentlemen followed who had accompanied them. They are the representatives of the president and of the bishop sent to meet us. Everyone made way for them to approach us, as we were standing at a distance, and little thought such distinguished personages were approaching us. They presented us with salutations from the great men of the Republic and prayed us to go with them, saying our luggage would be seen to. Having saluted the captain and passengers, some of whom were crying because we were leaving them, we boarded the boats which conveyed us on shore. At Corinto, we partook of a good breakfast, which had been prepared for us. It being already 10 o'clock, our appetites had been somewhat sharpened by the pure air. In the meantime, a dispatch arrived welcoming us on the part of the president and giving us and our luggage a free passage. Thus, after receiving several visitors, we boarded the train at 3 p.m., accompanied by the same personages who met us on board the vessel. At 6 p.m., we arrived at León, where a crowd was awaiting us to see what we were like, I believe, but the place was so full that we could not get off the train. So we were compelled to go further back and take another exit. All precaution seemed useless, for the people were determined to see us. While all this was going on, the vicar general, sent by the bishop, came on board the train and read an address to us in the bishop's name, which was certainly an honor not merited by us. We were at last able to get off the train, surrounded by soldiers so as not to be crushed to death. Then we got into carriages which took us to a hotel where, by orders of the bishop, apartments had been prepared for the night. The owner of the hotel is a Florentine who had great pleasure in serving us and treated us as well as he could. In the evening, some ladies and gentlemen from Leon came to visit us and asked us to send 7 sisters to Leon to open an academy there. It was very hard to convince them that such things were quite impossible for the moment, but in the end they resigned themselves to it by my promising to let them have some sisters some years hence. In the morning, the bishop sent carriages to convey us to his palace, as he wished to see us, and though seriously ill through an apoplectic attack, which paralyzed his tongue, he got up to see us, making efforts to speak, and assuring us that as soon as he was better, he would come to Granada to see us. At 8:30 a.m., we were on board the train, and at 10 a.m., we reached Mambo Tambo, where we took another trip up the lake, and where another breakfast was prepared by the bishop's orders the day before. At 11 a.m., we crossed this beautiful lake. Opposite us were several volcanoes, only one of which was not extinct, but from which only smoke came forth. At 4 p.m., we arrived at Managua, where a train for Granada was awaiting us. One of the senators and a deputy of the government, with other persons desirous to see the sisters, came to salute us. At 6 p.m., we arrived at Granada, where the whole population awaited us. I really think no one could have remained at home. Everybody seemed to be at the station. The crowd prevented the carriages from coming up to us, as they wanted us to pass them so that they could see us. But the number of people was so great that order could not be maintained, and we feared we should be suffocated. I was particularly anxious, as some of the sisters were not feeling too well. I feared they would make martyrs of us through their great devotion towards us. I therefore prayed the soldiers to make room for us, and as soon as I called them, they drew near and put the people in order, forming a great procession to the parish church, where the parish priest, accompanied by other priests, awaited us to sing the Te Deum, after which we were taken to the house which was destined for us, and where, with great pleasure, we are preparing to open an academy. All the children of the town want to attend our school, and boarders from the neighboring districts are asking admittance. But for the present, we can only take 50 boarders, for although the house is big, it is not big enough for this tropical climate where the heat is intense. Now and then we have, as it were, a providential breeze, which, pure and fresh, restores us a little. We have large enclosures with a variety of orange trees and other smaller plants, and flowers of all colors and kinds. It just looks like the beginning of spring, and so it will be on Christmas Day. The good lady Elena Ariano had all the dormitories in order for the sisters and a very nice, airy chapel, so that the director of the seminary, who, by the order of the bishop, had accompanied us, could celebrate Mass and give us Holy Communion. In the afternoon, he gave a beautiful sermon inviting people to thank the Sacred Heart for having bestowed on them the grace of having the religious amongst them. At present, Donna Elena is preparing the decks and arranging the program or prospectus, which will be examined by the heads of the families. And so far, this has been approved by them, for they say we have brought them true progress. We hope this will result in good to their souls. For this alone have we undertaken such a long voyage. May the Sacred Heart and St. Aloysius, who is patron of this house, help to obtain these graces. All the sisters are well and working hard to open the academy very soon. Perhaps they will begin about the middle of December. Those sisters who feared earthquakes fear nothing now, though we experience some shaking. We have a volcano quite near. Some people want us to visit the country, which offer I intend to accept later on before I leave. So I shall have something to tell you, and not be like those who go to Rome without going to see the Pope. I beg of you to become true missionaries, capable of those sacrifices which your sisters with the aid of the Sacred Heart have made. Seek to perfect your spirit and the observance of the holy rules, for you must be holy to be able to go to the missions, and perfect by observing your rules and customs. Our great patron, St. Francis Xavier, said, "He who goes wholly to the missions will find many occasions to sanctify himself more, but he who goes poorly provided with holiness runs the risk of losing what he has and of falling away." I become more convinced of this truth every day, and as experience is a great master, let us take advantage of the lessons it teaches, and never let a day pass without examining our conscience and making serious resolutions to acquire the virtues we need. May the Sacred Heart bless and enclose you in his sweet heart, imprinting his love on yours and giving you perfect detachment of yourselves. Your affectionate mother, in the Sacred Heart of Jesus, Frances Xaverina Cabrini, Granada, November 3rd, 1891. I didn't used to be a traveler. Growing up in Kansas, my main excursions were to Missouri, Colorado, and occasionally Arkansas. I didn't get on a plane until I was 17 years old. My kids, on the other hand, have been everywhere. Their experiences of growing up as military brats is vastly different than mine, where I had roots dug deep in Kansas. And both are valuable. I'm not saying one is better than the other. But now that I am a military spouse, I relish all the traveling and exploring we get to do. I love the adventure of it all, and I particularly love experiencing other cultures and people. Now, I do realize that some people are homebodies, and that is perfectly fine. Not everybody wants to gallivant around the globe, and traveling can be very difficult and taxing. However, all of us, whether we like traveling or not, need to find ways to get out of our comfort zone, because complacency causes malaise and stunts growth. Mother Cabrini going from Europe to New York was definitely a culture shock, I'm sure. However, she was going to work with the Italians and help them, so she was going into a familiar culture in a way. Plus, so much of America had a heavy European influence at the time. Going to Nicaragua, though, and Panama is a huge undertaking. We are talking about a vastly different culture, climate, language, and people from the Italian culture and customs. And we must remember that Mother Cabrini didn't have the luxury of looking up Central America on a phone and checking things out before she went there. She just had to go and get thrown into the situation and learn as she goes. That is very brave, and I admire her willingness to go into those unknown areas. So if you feel in a rut or just uninterested with life, you must find a way to get out of your comfort zone and serve others in some capacity. And you don't have to spend a lot of money, and you don't have to travel very far. But it's important to find healthy, positive ways to stretch ourselves and engage with the world around us, especially people, in new and interesting ways. I promise you won't regret it. That is all for this Voyage Catholic Pilgrims. I've really enjoyed hearing about this trip and all the details that we've read about. I don't know about you, but now I want to go to like Central America. And when I've looked it up online, the pictures are quite beautiful. And the houses are all colored. It's so interesting. Anyway, go look it up if you have the time. But our next voyage will catapult us 3 years into the future from the end of this voyage. So I'll see you in the year 1894. And until then, live the faith boldly and travel well.